I feel sorry for him, as I do for all slaves. Any government that bans criticism of a foreign government is not sovereign, and the Israelis prevented us from getting out of it.
All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. Today we have Tucker Carlson. Not going to waste any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel. Let's get right into it.
Have been, until now really, a huge supporter of his. You wanted him elected, obviously,
Yes.
for a second term. Have you completely fallen out with him over this war then?
Well, I haven't fallen out with him. I mean, I've known him for decades. I've always liked him. And I think anyone who spent time with him likes him. I feel sorry for him, as I do for all slaves. He is not free in this moment at all to do what he thinks is best for himself or his country.
What do you mean?
No, he's not free. And we learned that yesterday when Donald Trump announced a ceasefire, clearly with relief, and made its terms, or most of its terms, public. And then that ceasefire ended within 2 hours because Israel intentionally violated the terms by attacking not just southern Lebanon, but the city of Beirut.
So are you saying he's a slave to Benjamin Netanyahu?
So I don't think it's as simple as he's under the control of Netanyahu. But, you know, you could summarize it that way and you wouldn't be totally inaccurate. And again, we know this because the single biggest mistake Trump or any American president in my lifetime has made was going to war with Iran in an effort to change its regime. It didn't work. It was obviously a mistake immediately. Trump understood it was a mistake immediately, and he tried to get out of it this week and announced we were getting out of it, and the Israelis prevented us from getting out of it. So that's the clearest possible example.
Right.
They didn't allow it, therefore they're in charge.
You will know that people, including the Vice President, J.D. Vance, say things like, look, ceasefires are always messy to start with, give it a few days, it'll settle down. Let me move on, because I want to ask you about the British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was criticised by the US President. He said, this is not Winston Churchill we're dealing with. Do you think Keir Starmer has made the right calls in this war?
I don't think Keir Starmer makes any calls about anything. I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
Obviously. Right. Okay. No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel. If you say you're for Palestine action, you can be arrested. A lot of people have been arrested. So in other words, it is not legal in Britain to criticize another country. And that tells you about Britain's sovereignty. It doesn't have any. Its prime minister has no sovereignty.
Mr. Carlson,
Those are facts. I have family
that is
there.
Not true. And in terms of this war, I'm specifically asking.
Wait, I'm sorry. What is not true about that? Have people not been arrested in Britain for criticizing Israel? They certainly have been. There's videotape of it.
If I may, Palestine Action is a proscribed group. It is banned. Therefore, people have been arrested.
Why is it banned?
That is correct.
Why is it banned?
I'm asking you a question specific.
Yeah, he's just having fun with her, bro. He's just playing with her at this point. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I think that Tucker's just dismantling her. I don't know if this was supposed to be a combative interview or not, but so far, I don't think she has any business interviewing Tucker.
Specifically about Keir Starmer and the decisions
because the Israeli government wanted it banned.
And you will know that on February the 28th, if I may, on February the 28th, which was the day the US launched its action, the British Prime Minister told the country that he was not joining with the US because he thought it was illegal and that there was no viable plan. So clearly he made a sovereign decision, which he said was in the interests of the country. And I'm asking you, do you think he made the right call there?
Any government that bans criticism of a foreign government is not sovereign. The British government has banned criticism of Israel, therefore it's not sovereign. It's acting on behalf of another country to the detriment of its own citizens. So let's just be really clear about that.
The British government
Britain
has
is not
not
a sovereign
banned
country.
criticism of the Israeli government.
It certainly has, by banning Palestine action, which has nothing to do with Britain at all, or its critical interests at all. I often criticize Britain, but I love Britain. As I said, I have family there. And I don't think that Britons understand just how badly they've been shafted by the United States. And I am ashamed of that, and I hope that we will do everything we can to rectify it. I know that Keir Starmer understands that. He doesn't seem to care, or he doesn't have, again, the control to do anything about it, which is sad to see. The debasement of the country is sad for me to see. But I hope that our next president strikes a far more conciliatory and cooperative tone with Britain and tries to help Britain, because it has a lot of problems that will be very obvious by the next time there's a presidential election in my country.
You tried to persuade Donald Trump not to go to war with Iran. You met him 3 times in the run-up to February the 28th, and you spoke to him on the phone multiple times. Donald Trump now says because of this action that he has taken, the US and the American people are safer. Is he wrong?
Well, of course, that's an absurd statement. He doesn't believe it, I don't think. No, of course not. I mean, we were told after the 12-day war in June that the United States had eliminated Iran's nuclear program, and then we were told in February that somehow that nuclear program had not only been resurrected, but it had been paired with ICBMs that could threaten continental United States. I mean, the whole thing is a fantasy. The United States went to war in Iran in order to effect regime change, to throw out the people who ran the country and collapse it at the behest and then the demand of Israel.
Period. Conversation over, right? If you're not smart enough to recognize by now that we got drugged into this war because of Israel, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you still have people out there that are trying to defend this. Oh, it's not because of Israel. Well, they're a tiny country. They wouldn't do that. They've hijacked our government, and they have our political representatives by the balls.
And that's a demand the Israelis have made of the U.S. government for decades, and President Trump fell for it, did it. And I think he recognized immediately that it was a mistake and that it's very hard to extricate yourself from a war like this once it has begun. And I think the net effect, and the president himself has said this, is at best to leave the regime in place, give that regime control over commodities that flow through the straits at the eastern end of the Persian Gulf, in effect to make Iran much more powerful than it was on February 27th, the day before the war began.
On that subject of being more powerful, I mean, you will know that the president has said, because of me, Iran will now never have a nuclear weapon. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and we will dig up and remove all the deeply buried nuclear dust. Pete Hegseth said Epic Fury has decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You don't believe that? They're lying?
Well, of course, it's not true. And it also reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of Iran's power. Iran is not primarily a military power, though it's turned out to be much more effective than anyone thought. Iran is an economic power. Iran has the power to halt a critical supply chain, maybe the single most critical supply chain in the global economy, which is shipping out of the Persian Gulf. And it retains that power because of its geography. And it's always had that power. It just hasn't exercised it until now. And so not understanding that allows you to enter into an engagement like this with the belief that you can beat them, sink their navy, destroy their air force, degrade their missile capacity, and you will somehow win. But of course, the opposite is true. There is no way out at this point from that fundamental reality. If the United States were to eliminate the central government in Tehran, it wouldn't open the strait. The strait could be closed by piracy. In fact, you need a central government in Tehran to keep the strait open. And we know that from the Houthis, who are able to close the Red Sea. And years, many years of war with the Gulf states, briefly with the United States, have not ended the Houthis' ability to close access to the Red Sea. They have it as of right now. So this is an asymmetrical problem. It doesn't matter how many aircraft carriers you have. You still can't prevent other people, your enemies in this case, from closing shipping lanes. It can be done with mines. Like this whole thing, this whole problem is very easy to understand, and you would have to be either not very bright or under immense pressure from another country in order to start a war like this. And the latter is true. We did this because of pressure from Israel. Now, how exactly did they exert that pressure? That's not entirely clear, but we're going to have to find out. I think we have an obligation to find out. And because we can't be a sovereign country under these circumstances. And we're not a sovereign country at this point.
All right, guys, we're going to end the video here. You know, Tucker made a lot of good points again. It's a very binary topic, right? Either you're for the war or you're against it. There's not a lot of middle ground here because there's so much information. Regardless of what you believe, I feel like it's super easy to stay well informed when it comes to this conflict. So with that being said, you know, the fact that she's asking him these questions, do you really think Iran has military capability still? Do you think there's still a capable fighting force in Iran? It's like, you should know better. Like, you can find that out with a simple Google search. As a matter of fact, just look at the situation, right? The strait's closed. That in and of itself tells me that Iran still has capabilities. If the strait is closed, Iran's still capable and they're still fighting, period. But again, these reporters and these people that do these interviews, they don't really ask good questions. It seemed like she was kind of attacking him in a weird way, you know? I don't have a big comment about the whole, you know, UK, England thing. I should and I will learn more about it, but right now there's so many things going on in the US. I mean, you know, you got to pick your poison, right? But as far as everything else, he's 100% correct, and I agree with him. So let me know what you guys think about what he said in this video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you like this content, go ahead and like and subscribe. Helps the channel. And I got a lot of content coming out soon here, so stay tuned. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.